The story didn't begin with fireworks, headlines, or a dramatic revelation broadcast under blinding studio lights. It began in a way that made the entire moment feel even more intimate. Quietly. So quietly that most people initially scrolled right past it. It was just one line, one short, almost careless sentence hidden inside an interview that should have faded into the usual noise of celebrity content. But the world didn't let it fade. It caught like a spark meeting dry paper. Before anyone could grasp what was happening, the sentence grew into a fire, spreading across platforms, igniting discussions, edits, theories and translations in dozens of languages. All from a confession so gentle it barely felt like a confession at all. Jimin said he chose to live with Jungkook. He said it simply, straightforwardly. Without that nervous laugh idols often use when trying to deflect. Without searching for safer phrasing. Without shrinking from how unexpected the words might sound to the public. He said it like the truth had been sitting inside him for years, waiting for the right moment to slip out naturally. And the world, especially the part of the world that has watched these two grow, change, struggle and triumph together, stopped in place. At first glance the sentence looked harmless. Just two bandmates, two longtime friends, choosing to live together after a decade of shared history. But anyone who has witnessed even a fraction of their journey knew instantly that this moment carried a different kind of weight. Not the weight of scandal nor the weight of publicity but the weight of honesty. Rare, unpolished honesty. For years, people have tried to describe the strange, magnetic closeness between Jimin and Jungkook. They've used countless words. Brotherly, protective, affectionate, inseparable. Yet none have ever fully captured the quiet gravity that seems to draw them toward each other no matter the season, schedule or circumstance. Something about the way they exist together feels effortless. Familiar in the kind of way that comes only from time, trust, and 1,000 unspoken understandings. So when Jimin said he chose Jungkook, it wasn't just about convenience or practicality. It was about preference. And preference says more than proximity ever could. But the story didn't stop there. It expanded in the most unexpected direction possible, into family. When asked about her son's decision, Jimin's mother didn't hesitate or dodge the question the way many parents of celebrities often do when faced with sensitive topics. Instead, she offered a response so warm, so full of quiet acceptance, that it stunned even longtime fans who thought they'd seen everything. As long as he is with someone who makes him feel at peace, she said, we have no reason to worry. Those words fell softly, but their meaning resonated like a bell. A mother's acceptance isn't given lightly and it isn't given without reason. Her calm response suggested familiarity, comfort, and an understanding that stretched far beyond the public's limited view. It hinted at years of shared meals, shared stories, shared hardships, at a presence that had become as natural to the family as breathing. And if she wasn't surprised, the world wondered, then how long has this arrangement truly existed? How long has this choice been quietly living and breathing behind closed doors? Jungkook's reaction added even more color to the moment. He didn't deny it. He didn't joke about it. He didn't perform the usual idol routine of clarifying everything into something safer. Instead he looked settled, peaceful. As if this wasn't news to him at all, but rather a piece of their reality that had simply escaped into the world earlier than expected. There was something in the way he carried the moment. Steady, knowing, unbothered, that told the public everything without him having to speak. To truly understand why this shook the fandom so deeply, you have to step back in time. Back to the days when Jungkook was still a shy, wide-eyed teenager far from home, overwhelmed by the weight of dreams that suddenly felt too big for his hands. Back to when Jimin entered the picture. Soft-spoken, warm-hearted, and determined to be the kind of presence that could help someone breathe easier. Their early years weren't glamorous or easy. They were filled with exhaustion, fear, sacrifice, and invisible battles fought in cramped dorms and late-night practice rooms. Through all of it, they gravitated toward each other instinctively, building a bond not from dramatic gestures but from accumulated softness. Shared late-night meals, whispered encouragement, silent companionship, and laughter that broke through fatigue like sunlight slipping past curtains. These were the moments that shaped them. Not the awards. Not the flashing lights. Not the global success that the world recognizes. But the quiet, private pieces of life that only they witnessed. So when Jimin said he chose Jungkook, fans understood. Because they had seen the way these two looked at each other over the years. Not in a dramatic or theatrical way, but in the way someone looks at a person who has been part of every version of their life. They had seen how Jungkook always turned toward Jimin first, even in crowded rooms. They had seen how Jimin softened instantly in Jungkook's presence, as if the world's weight could finally slip off his shoulders. The mother's words, however, were the turning point. They reframed everything. Not as a shocking revelation but as something that made perfect emotional sense. Family acceptance is powerful. It silently confirms that a bond is more than convenience or coincidence. It is earned through years of sincerity, reliability, and closeness that cannot be fabricated. Her peaceful acknowledgement told the world that Jungkook was not a temporary figure in Jimin's life. He was someone who brought comfort, stability, and peace. And if a mother sees those qualities in someone, the world doesn't need further explanation. What followed online wasn't chaos driven by scandal. It was chaos driven by emotion. Fans didn't argue over controversy. They processed a moment that felt unexpectedly tender, unexpectedly intimate, unexpectedly honest. It felt like being allowed to see a milestone they never thought would be spoken aloud. Because at its core, this isn't a story about housing. It isn't a story about logistics or living arrangements. It's a story about choosing someone. Choosing where you feel safe. Choosing where your heart can rest without pretense. Choosing the person who has walked with you through storms, growth, and reinvention. Jimin didn't choose a roommate. He chose a constant. And Jungkook, with his calm smile and unshaken demeanor, chose him back. In the end, what made this moment so powerful wasn't the shock. It was the softness. The humanity. The quiet bravery of acknowledging a bond that has defined so much of their lives. No matter how the world interprets it, one truth remains impossible to deny. This isn't just a story about two people sharing a home. This is a story about two lives woven together through time, trust, and unspoken understanding. A story of two souls who found comfort in each other long before they found fame. A story that feels less like news and more like destiny finally spoken aloud. And that is why millions cannot look away.